Hey guys, I'm not sure if anybody is in here in the chat just yet. Um, I tried to give, approximately 2 hours notice on this one. You guys know me. I'm last minute type of gal with these live streams. Sometimes I think I'm gonna have one and then I don't. I get too tired, and then other times I'm not sure, and I'm going back and forth about whether I should have one or not. Um, and today was one of those days where I was like, yeah, I finally decided, yeah, I feel like doing one of these. Hey, Jay. Um, but anyway, tonight we're going to talk about not all of the high school horrors. Hey, Darren. Um, not going to talk about all the high school horror movies. We're going to talk about 13 of my favorites. Now, this list may, hey Dirk, this list may leave off some of your guys' favorite ones. I may do a part two to this one that covers some of the like later ones, like Scream and stuff like that. But this live stream, I wanted to focus on the early ones, like late 70s, early to mid 80s. The last one I'm going to talk about is 1987, and you probably can guess what that one is, or maybe not. Um, but rest assured, I probably will do a second part to this that will cover some later ones. But I was looking at lists of high school horror movies supposedly that people had created and put online, and a lot of them included things like Jennifer's Body, which I know that you guys, the guys that come to my chats in particular, are probably say, "Oh yeah, that's great," Jennifer's Body. But on the other side of the coin, that's not really a movie for me. It's not one that I ever want to watch. It's not one that I have watched. Um, and if you guys, try to encourage me enough, I might watch it. But at this point, I'm not really interested in watching something like Jennifer's Body. I think there was one called Tragedy Girls or whatever that I've never seen. Steve says he has it on the hard drive somewhere, but he's never watched it either. And there were just some either that I had never heard of or that I just was really not interested in watching or rewatching. The Scream stuff, things like that, yeah, I want to, cover things like uh, Scream and Urban Legend. But the thing about some of these movies that they had on the high school horrors list, I'm competing with AEW tonight. Oh, well. Steve's probably in there watching AEW from the bedroom, but he told me he was going to turn on something that, how when you're tired and you just want to rest and you kind of want just something that you can slightly ignore in the background. So he may not be watching AEW because I know that he likes to pay attention to the wrestling. So he may turn it on Ancient Aliens or something like that where you just got background noise. I do that with commentaries. Sometimes, not that I think the commentaries are boring, but the commentaries just kind of, the voice is talking, just kind of lulls me to sleep. Um, Jay, you say Battle Royale is the only high school movie I need, relatable and realistic. I'm going to ask Jay, what high school did you go to? Because thankfully, my high school wasn't relatable to Battle Royale, but Battle Royale is an excellent movie. Um, yes, Wes, I know Jennifer's Body is nice to look at. If you're lesbian, which I'm not, or you're a guy, which I'm not that either. So, hey, Chris V. Steve does strike you as an Ancient Aliens type of guy. Actually, he's, I don't know if it's, I mean, he likes a lot of different alien stuff and some of the paranormal stuff. And sometimes I ask him if he believes in that stuff or not. Um, and sometimes he says no. Sometimes he says, I don't know. I think he's like a lot of people. He just doesn't really know how he feels about those things in particular anyway. And I do apologize for my dog Brandon, who's whining in the background. He absolutely hates when I do these live streams. He wants me back in the living room sitting on the couch where he can keep an eye on me, I guess. um, so anyway, what I was saying about those lists that a lot of people had put out online, um, they seem to mix and match a little bit with having the high school horror movies mixed in with college slashers or college horror movies. And Urban Legend, in my opinion, would fit that college horror movie because it takes place at a college. And, there's other movies like that that are, Final Exam, which, yes, Wes, I will cover Final Exam at some point when I get to the college slashers or college horror films. And, there were some that I actually have in my stack over here to discuss that weren't on anybody's list that I looked at. And I kind of wondered why. And some of these may not seem like high school movies per se, um, because the action doesn't take place in a high school, but um, these are obviously supposedly teenagers in these films. So just bear with me as I go through these, and if you find any discrepancies, please feel free to put something in the chat. It won't hurt my feelings at all. Um, so I just wanted to bring up again before I get started with the movies that I do have an Etsy shop, the Morbid Beauty Boutique. If you put Morbid Beauty Boutique into Etsy, an Etsy search, you should be able to find it. If not, and you're interested in what I've got up there now is horror candles, handmade horror candles, different scents, different colors. I can put different like horror movie people on there, like Michael Myers, Freddy Krueger, Jason Voorhees, stuff like that. Or I've got some stuff with skulls on it and stuff. So um, if you're interested in that, check out my Etsy shop. If you can't find it through a search and you're interested in maybe looking at what I have to offer on the shop, just let me know and I'll send you a link. Yes, and Dirk, I'm actually going to talk about student bodies tonight because I don't believe that I've talked about student bodies in another one of my live streams. Maybe I have, but I cannot recall. And, I hate to keep talking about the same old movies again because there's only so much you can talk about with certain movies, but some of these movies I love so much that I don't mind talking about them over and over and over again. And so hopefully I will find something new and interesting to share with you guys about these movies so you don't get completely bored. Uh, if it is one that I've talked about in one of my retrospectives or one that I've talked about in one of these other live streams. Student Bodies is funny. I remember the first time I watched it just thinking it was just a hoot. And it was one of those first films I saw that was kind of making fun of the genre, but not in a mean-spirited way. And Yeah, I'm going to talk about that one in a little bit. But anyway, we're going to go ahead and get started. And I'm trying to have these pretty much in chronological order. So the first one we're going to talk about is Carrie. And this is one of my favorites for a lot of reasons, but probably the top reason this is one of my in my top, excuse me guys, my top favorites for high school horror is because Stephen King did it, or wrote the book. And also Brian De Palma directed it, and I think Brian De Palma did an excellent job with this movie. Aaron, you want to know how long I've been streaming? Well, Dirk's right, not long. We're on the first movie, so you really didn't miss anything. But Wes told me I was competing with AEW, so I didn't know if you would be here or not. I don't know if you watch AEW that much or not, but I don't. I'm the scream queen. Oh Lord, nah, I wouldn't go that far. But anyway, I hate to pull people away from AEW, but if you guys are here in the chat and watching my crazy live stream, then I must be doing something right. This I can give you a brief plot on Carrie, but I'm not going to go as with many of these. I'm sure that you guys, if you're in this live stream, you're familiar with the plots of the majority, if not all, of these movies. But I think one of the reasons why this movie resonated so much with me is I never was popular in high school. I didn't really want to be popular. And I wasn't bullied per se. I was just made fun of. And I was made fun of way before high school. But it seems like the older you get, and it's worse now. I thank the good Lord every day that I'm not having to be in high school now, that my high school days are behind me. Because I probably would have gotten bullied now when I see the way young people interact with each other anymore. Chris V, you say Carrie's mother scared the shit out of me as a kid. She scared the shit out of my cousin Heather too, who we watched this together, and then she had nightmares about Carrie's mother coming after her. So Wes is giving us a rundown on the wrestling. It says Jericho turned heel again and created another faction. Jay, you say, all hail she who falls from the YouTube. Dirk, you say you don't watch that anyways. You watch UFC where the blood and brutality is on a new level. LOL. Yeah, there's a lot of people that prefer UFC. I know my dad, he would much rather watch UFC than wrestling. Don't judge him now. But he just naturally likes that better. And then there's some people that like wrestling and UFC. And then there's people that just like wrestling. So, they're all different types. But as I was saying, I think the big reason why Carrie resonated so much with me is because I was picked on in school. And here was a girl that was picked on unmercifully, but she had a power. And they didn't know she had this power, this telekinetic power. And everything comes to a head at the prom. And so, it's not really that I wanted this power to be able to do things to kill people. But it's just, one of those things where you feel a sense of satisfaction seeing a character within the movie be able to get their, you know, these people that did horrible things to Carrie got their comeuppance at her hands. And you know, it wasn't really like she planned it out that she was going to stab them or anything like that. They literally pushed her over the edge and kind of forced her into using her power to destroy them, pretty much. And I just feel like anybody who was picked on in school is going to have some sort of a movie like Carrie is going to resonate with them. There's just there's no way around that, I don't think. Apples and oranges. Yep. Yep. So this is based, like I said, on a Stephen King novel, and Sissy Spacek, who was much older than the character that she was playing in this movie. But I feel like Sissy Spacek, I don't know what is affected me. Must have been that Long John Silver's I had earlier, but I do apologize. I felt like Sissy Spacek was made for this part. Because even though she was older, there was a sensitivity about her character, and she really went for that role. And if you watch like the special features where they do interviews, I believe they talked to Sissy Spacek, and she was out to prove to the makers of this movie that she was Carrie White. Because they thought, you know, oh, you know, you don't have the look and all this stuff. They kind of gave her descriptions of how Stephen King described Carrie White in the book. And I guess they just didn't think that she could pull it off. So, did I get chicken planks at Long John Silver's? No, actually, usually I get fish. So I got fish and hush puppies, a fish and hush puppies combo with a Diet Pepsi. But I think it's just affecting me now. So she came into the audition. She had her hair greased up and no makeup on, and you know, her freckles are really standing out and stuff, and basically based on that she won them over. And you know, there's very few people in Hollywood especially, or in those circles, that realistically can pull off what Sissy Spacek pulled off. Because it seems like nowadays, and there's, Sissy Spacek's not ugly by any means. I think she's a very attractive woman. Even, you know, in her older age, I think she's still attractive. But they seem to nowadays have to glamorize everything. And Carrie White is not a character that should be glamorized. She's a put upon high school student who it's torture every day for her to go to school, but it's not any better when she goes home because her mother is a religious fanatic who makes Carrie go to the closet for anything that she perceives to be bad. Even things like, and I'm sorry guys, we're going to talk about menstrual cycles a little bit, but she gets her first period, has a really traumatic experience in the shower because she doesn't know what it is. Her mother never told her about this. And I guess in her mother's demented mind, she thought if Carrie stayed Snow White and pure, she would never have a period. But she does, and the girls ridicule her in the shower, throw sanitary napkins at her. Um, and this is a girl that literally started bleeding in the shower and didn't know what was going on. She thought she was dying. Um, and then to be ridiculed, and then to get sent home early from school. And then when her mother gets home, her mother basically beats her over the head with a book, with the Bible or whatever, and throws her in a closet and tells her, go to your closet and pray. Pray to ask to be forgiven. And this is what she has to deal with on a day-to-day basis. So when one of the girls, Sue Snell, who's played expertly by Amy Irving, feels so bad about what they did to Carrie. She's basically the only one that does in the gym class. And she gets her boyfriend, Tommy Ross, played by William Catt, who plays that role to the hilt as well. It gets him to ask Carrie to the prom. And at first, Carrie's like, no, you guys are trying to play a trick on me. And that's what she tells the gym teacher, Miss Collins, I believe, is in the movie. And I think it's Miss Desjardins in the book. Maybe they thought that was too difficult a name to have in the movie, and so they changed it. I don't really know. But, the gym teacher tries to reassure her, but there's a look on the gym teacher's, on Miss Collins' face right before it shifts from that scene where she's telling Carrie how pretty she is, and if she puts her hair up and puts a little makeup on, that there's really a very pretty girl in there, and she's trying to encourage her. But you see one moment where the gym teacher puts her fingers up to her mouth, and it's just that one fleeting moment. You can tell that she's terrified for Carrie. Her heart's breaking for Carrie because she believes that this will not turn out well. She has a discussion with Sue and Tommy, and Sue is not willing to let go of this. She wants to help Carrie. So she encourages Tommy more, and Tommy won't give up. He actually goes to Carrie's house and makes her promise to go to prom with him. And she ends up having a magical time at the prom, and then bad things happen. And she's basically ridiculed and covered in pig's blood in front of everybody at the prom. And so then her telekinesis goes haywire. A bunch of people die. She ends up going home and battling it out to the end with her mother. And I think this is a very powerful film. I felt like the book was powerful, but I felt like the film and what Brian De Palma did with it actually cemented that for a lot of people, because a lot of people are visual and they would rather watch a film than read a book. Me, I like, if I know there's a book out, especially a Stephen King book, because I'm a huge Stephen King fan, I usually want to make sure that I've read the book before I see the movie. That wasn't the case with Carrie. And actually, this was one of those cases where Dad told me the ending and then said, oh, I thought you'd seen this before. It's like, Dad, this movie came out in 1976, the year I was born. How do you think that I saw it? But anyway, whatever. John, you say Sissy Spacek was hilarious and Blast from the Past as the mom. I need to see that. I haven't seen that. Dirk, you say they're all gonna laugh at you. They're all gonna laugh at you. Yep, that line is big in the film. Dirk, you say this is one of Brian De Palma's best films. I would agree with that too. Um, but look at the source material he had. This great Stephen King novel. But there are some people that don't like the novel because for anybody that has read it, you'll know what I'm talking about. The novel is written in a non-traditional way. It's basically told through interviews that supposedly a reporter was doing with people that were around when Carrie, all this bad stuff happened to Carrie, and then the ultimate crisis happened at the prom and all that. And so it's basically told through a reporter's interviews, newspaper articles, and then it's interspersed with the actual meat of the novel. So that might actually turn people off of reading it, even if they like to read. So just a word of warning, if you're thinking about reading Carrie and you've never, even looked at the book before, that is the way it's set up. And so when I finally did read the book, of course, like I said, I'd seen the movie, but most of the time I will like to read the book and have the book finished before I watch the movie. The older I got, the more important that became for me. And like when the Stand miniseries came out in '94, I worked really hard to make sure that I finished the uncut version of the Stand. Not the version that came out in the '70s, but I'm talking about the later version that put all the stuff back in that they made Stephen King cut out when the book was published the first time around. And that was a hefty book, let me tell you. But I managed to finish it before that miniseries came out, and I'm thankful that I did. Because I like the miniseries, but I was sitting there. It's probably kind of funny for people to watch me while I was watching it and be saying, "Oh, that's not right. That character's combined with another character and all that, or they left this character completely out, or whatever." Chris V, you said that, or Scarface for sure, Dirk. I love Scarface as well. And if we were talking about anything other than horror movies, I would definitely do a discussion on Scarface because I like that movie so well. Now this is the Scream Factory Blu-ray release, and you've got quite a few like special features. This has got 2 discs. And actually, I've got like I told you, we've got the slip cover with the new artwork, and then I flipped the cover around to have the original artwork for it. So you get the best of both worlds. Blowout's good too, Jay. You guys are mentioning a lot of great movies. Now the way this is set up, and Scream Factory doesn't always do this. I don't know if you guys can see that very well. But one disc, this disc actually, with Carrie's mother, has the feature film on Blu-ray. The second one with John Travolta there, which, by the way, John Travolta is in the movie. He's not a very nice person in the movie. But this disc is just got the special features on it. So, disc 1 has a new 4K scan of the original negative. It looks very, very good. And if they come out with a 4K, I'll be buying it. Dress to Kill's great too, John. You guys are hitting all the really great ones. But you didn't love it as much as Blowout or Body Double? Wow. I mean, that's unique. I mean, I'm not putting you down at all for saying you didn't like it as much as Blowout or Body Double. I'm the opposite. I like. I mean, I love Blowout, but there's something about Dress to Kill. Maybe it's because I like a lot of the Italian Giallo movies and stuff, and the way Dress to Kill is set up is a lot like a Giallo. Actually, they call it an American Giallo. Um, and I think I did a live stream. It's been a while where I talked about some movies that were considered American Giallos. Um, but you get a theatrical trailer on there, and then you get a Carrie franchise trailer gallery. Disc 2, which has got all the special features pretty much on it, you get new interviews with writer Lawrence D. Cohen, editor Paul Hirsch, actors Piper Laurie, PJ Souls. And PJ Souls is on here. She wears that uh, famous ball cap that I think she even has it on in the prom scenes. So that was like her trademark in that movie. Nancy Allen, Betty Buckley, William Catt, and Edie McClurg. Casting director Harriet B. Hellberg. Director of photography Mario Tossi. And composer Pino Donaggio. New Horrors Hallowed Grounds, revisiting the film's original location. So you actually get a Horrors Hallowed Grounds with Sean Clark, which I always highly recommend those. Revisit, or let's see, acting Carrie interviews with actors Sissy Spacek, Amy Irving, Betty Buckley, Nancy Allen, William Catt, Piper Laurie, Priscilla Pointer, and PJ Souls, and art director Jack Fisk and director Brian De Palma. Visualizing Carrie interviews with Brian De Palma, Jack Fisk, Lawrence D. Cohen, Paul Hirsch. Look at Carrie the musical, which is interesting. TV spots, radio spots, still gallery, rare behind the scenes photos, Stephen King and the Evolution of Carrie text gallery. Yeah, definitely a very good package that Screen Factory put out. I highly recommend it. If you haven't picked it up already, you might want to think about seeing if you can find a copy. Derek, you say King has been spoiled with great directors bringing his work to screen. I agree with that. Carpenter, De Palma, Kubrick, Hooper, Rob Reiner. You say you wonder if King would be where he is without these great filmmakers. Well, I think even if nobody had, and of course I'm a huge fan of Stephen King, so take what I say with a grain of salt, Dirk. But I think if nobody had ever made a movie from any of his works, I think Stephen King would still be very popular. And I think he would be doing very well financially still yet. I'm sure, having these great directors make his books into movies has certainly helped. His popularity, financially, all of that. And I think he would agree with that as well. But we also have to think there's something about Stephen King's work that makes these directors want to turn them into movies. So they must be really good. So Stephen King has that talent of creating well-drawn characters, characters that you care about. So when these filmmakers take it and turn it into something visual, I think it makes it that much more powerful. Jay, you say, is it wrong that outside these directors, I don't care for King's writing or film adaptations? No, Jay, no, it certainly is not wrong. Everybody's entitled to their own opinion about things, including books, movies, whatever. So no, you are not wrong. And, I might be blinded a little bit and not really see any faults in Stephen King's work because I love his work so much. And it may take somebody like you um, to be able to point out that stuff. And I think that's important. And I think that's important that we can have healthy discussions about it without getting angry or offended or anything like that. And I'm certainly not offended by you saying that. Just because I'm a humongous Stephen King fan doesn't mean that everybody's going to be. So, Curly Jaws, you say Carrie 2013 remake I thought was better than the original. And that is okay, Curly Jaws. I mean, that's just what I was saying. I unfortunately don't feel that way about it. I mean, the remake was okay. But in my opinion, it was just okay. But it's perfectly fine that you think it's better than the original. Derek, you say no doubt King is great, but I feel other great writers have not had the same privilege. And you are certainly correct in that, Dirk. I think a lot of times people get there first, you know what I mean? And Stephen King was lucky for him, that he got in, he got in early. And then Stephen King worked hard. He paid his dues on the other side of that coin, because there was a time when, Stephen King was living in a single wide trailer. He was pretty much poor. He has talked about there were times where he would hurry up and have to write a story, any story, and hope that it would get published by a magazine so that he could buy medicine for one of his kids' ear infections or something like that. He's told stories like that numerous times. So Stephen King didn't live a charmed life. He suffered from alcoholism, drug abuse, more than likely depression. He was so messed up, and I didn't realize this until I saw some interviews and read some different things with where people had interviewed him, especially the book Dance Macabre. I think he does talk about he was so messed up during the writing of Cujo that he doesn't even remember it. He doesn't remember writing that book, and I think that's a great book and a great movie. But it's sad that he was going through something and he was doing so many drugs at that time. He was actually doing so much cocaine at one time that his trash can by his desk was filled with like bloody pieces of tissue and stuff where his nose kept bleeding. So he definitely didn't lead a charmed life early on. And he's definitely paid his dues. But I do understand people, wishing that everybody could evenly, reap the rewards that Stephen King has been able to reap. Let's see. Texas, you say Dead Zone, great book. Movie Blue Chunks. Wow. Because I think Cronenberg did an excellent job with the Dead Zone. But I thought the book was fantastic as well. Curly Jaws, you're asking, did you like It Follows? I did, actually. That was one of the newer movies that I actually liked. Dirk, you said you thought Walken was great in that. Yeah, another movie where I feel like Christopher Walken was made for that part. I mean, he played it really well, and he and Brooke Adams really seemed to mesh well. I could really believe that they were a couple and that they were so much in love, and that it was so tragic what happened to him with the car accident and everything. Um, John, you say he was high as a kite during Maximum Overdrive. LOL. Great flick though. AC/DC soundtrack and all. Yeah, John, I believe I had heard that too. He probably doesn't remember a lot about Maximum Overdrive either. Durkee say I like It Falls and some intense scenes and fast paced. I would agree with that. Texas, you say Dirk walking is great. The screen adaptation is what is bad about it. There's one of those bots in here again. Oh, Curly Jaws, you say you definitely need to do a Stephen King retrospective of all his movies. That would be a good show. Actually, oh, Curly Jaws, I have some Stephen King movies sitting over there in a stack. I plan to get to that, and I think it would be an interesting show. I don't know if it would be a good show because I'm not like the most charismatic of live streamers. So, I do my best, but that will be forthcoming. Actually, for any of you interested in seeing me interact with the Dead Pit Boys, for those of you that haven't heard about it already, I think Wes has put out some stuff. I know it's on YouTube, advertising it or promoting it or whatever. That I'm going to be doing a live stream with them tomorrow night at 9, I believe. And we're going to be talking about Final Girls. So that should be interesting for you guys. But anyway, moving along, because it's already almost 9 o'clock. I've been talking about different stuff for 45 minutes. That is Carrie. Highly recommend it. Great book. Great screenplay. Great director. Great actors and actresses. I don't know. There's just nothing bad I can say about this movie. So anyway, moving right along. Let's set it up there. To 1978. And I bet you guys know what I'm going to talk about. Oh, thank you, Dirk. Halloween with Jamie Lee Curtis. This is a movie that they're supposed to be high schoolers. We all know they're too old to be in high school, actually. But they're supposed to be high schoolers. You see them leaving the high school. You see Jamie Lee Curtis and Nancy Loomis and PJ Souls leaving the school and walking home and talking on their way home and stuff like that. But it doesn't, the horrific stuff does not happen in the school like it does in Carrie and some of these other movies I'm going to talk about. But it does have high schoolers supposedly in it. And Halloween's another one that I think everybody knows the plot. Michael Myers killed his sister in the 60s. And then they put him away. And then he breaks out the asylum many years later. Donald Pleasance is the psychiatrist that's trying to find him before he kills again. Donald Pleasance doesn't quite make it. Donald Pleasance is another person that I think was made for the role of Dr. Loomis. I know there are some of you that are huge fans of Rob Zombie's Halloween. And I'm a huge fan of Malcolm McDowell. I am. I really am. But I just don't think that anybody other than Donald Pleasance, who's sadly no longer with us, could do the Loomis part justice. I mean, Malcolm McDowell was great in other movies. You know, I loved him in Clockwork Orange and stuff like that. But I just could not see him as Dr. Loomis. Um, I mean, that was a role that Donald Pleasance pretty much made his own. Once he got a hold of that, that was Donald Pleasance's Dr. Loomis. And I think it's hard for a lot of us fans, unless we're old curly jaws. And old curly jaws, I can almost guarantee, likes the Rob Zombie Halloween better. I think he actually. Oh, Curly Jaws, weren't you the one that told me on one of the live streams that the 1978 Halloween was overrated? Um, John, you say, yeah, no way could Peter Cushing or Christopher Lee have done it as well. I've heard they were considered. Um, yeah, I think they actually asked Christopher Lee and he turned it down. And I think after seeing Donald Pleasance in the part, I think he regretted it for the rest of his life that he did not do it. But and Christopher Lee and Peter Cushing are both fantastic actors. I've loved them in a lot of things, but I just don't think either one of them would have been right for that character. Um, but who knows? We'll never know that now. But we had many good years with Donald Pleasance, and Donald Pleasance was great in a lot of other films. The only movie, and I like him in the movie, but the only movie I've ever seen Donald Pleasance in, or something seemed a little bit off, was Alone in the Dark. He just seemed a little goofy in that movie. Maybe he was supposed to be. I don't know. Um, Darky say, you still feel Zombie was trolling and tried to make the worst Halloween he could because he didn't want to do it to begin with. You could be right, Dirk. I think the other problem with Rob Zombie is if he's making his own movies, like House of a Thousand Corpses, Devil's Rejects, stuff like that, and he puts that white trash element in there, it fits because that's the style of movies that he makes. But then he tries to put that white trash element where there's abuse in the family, beatings, and you know, people yelling and screaming at each other all the time and all that. It's just um, it just doesn't work for me for a movie like Halloween. John, you say, I was at the Halloween 1 and 2 locations last month. It's odd to see, especially the gigantic bush. I bet I would love to be able to see those locations. I don't know if I'll ever be able to do that before I die, though. Um, oh, Curly Jaws, you say, yes, very overrated. And the original Halloween 2 is just awful. Never seen 3, 4, and 5. Or 4 and 5 are classics. Fuck 6. H2O was alright. Halloween Resurrection was the masterpiece. Love zombies films. Um, which, again, old Curly Jaws, that is perfectly fine. You know, we all have our different opinions on these films, and I think that's great. And I like it that you guys that show up in the chat, there's no fighting, there's no making anybody, you know, we might chuckle here and there, but it's all in good humor. And, you know, nobody's getting in big ugly fights because why would you want to get in big ugly fights over movies or books or anything like that? A healthy debate is great. But fighting and being nasty just because somebody chooses one movie over the other or one book over the other, that just, I don't understand that. And there are some people that want to do that. They just want to be nasty and not be accepting of somebody having another idea about a film or a book or liking something that maybe everybody else doesn't like. Um, but anyway, I don't think I need to go deep into the plot of Halloween. In my opinion, it's a fantastic film, a true classic. John Carpenter did an awesome job with this. Deborah Hill did an awesome job with this. Jamie Lee Curtis was perfect, in my opinion, as Laurie Strode. Um, and keep in mind, a lot of times people will say that Jamie Lee Curtis's Laurie Strode was like Lily White, but she really wasn't. If you watch that movie, she says shit. She smokes pot. About the only thing she doesn't do is you're not. Um, it doesn't ever allude to that she slept with anybody. So, other than being a virgin, she's not Lily White. I thought she was normal, normal acting. She didn't go too far one way or the other. So, um, and I feel like Scout Taylor Compton's Laurie Strode in the remake went too far in the vulgarity department. The stuff she was doing with the donut and whatever. I just thought, in my opinion, that was overblown and unnecessary. And, the way the way that Jamie Lee Curtis played it and the way that John Carpenter and Deborah Hill wrote it, probably it was Deborah Hill's influence. It made it more of seemed like a real girl, a real teenage girl, in my opinion. But that's just my opinion. John, you say I'm a fanboy of Jason and Michael. I'll watch them all, no matter what. Many of them definitely suck. Yeah, and I'm a fangirl too, John. And just like I've said, like Wes and Aaron, like we go back and forth on stuff, and it's good natured banter. We're not being nasty to each other. We kid around because Wes and Aaron definitely don't like Terror on Tour. They don't like Final Exam. I don't believe Aaron likes Final Exam. Aaron, feel free to chime in if that information is incorrect. But there's several movies that I like that people are like, oh my God, that's so awful. Sorry about my green screen messing up there. My dog kind of like almost got entangled in it. But anyways, Darky says she was straight raunchy. I mean, yeah, it was. It was just like, it was almost like I felt like Rob Zombie had something that he was trying to prove. And in my opinion, it just was not necessary to that type of movie. Perhaps it was necessary to House of a Thousand Corpses, Devil's Rejects, stuff like that. Which I find entirely watchable and enjoyable movies in a sadistic way. But anyway, I'm not going to go into the complete plot of Halloween. I mean, come on. Everybody knows what Halloween is. If you guys want me to do another live stream where I actually talk in detail about the plot, if you want that, let me know and I will do that. I will dissect the entire plot. But I don't think that you guys need that. Yes, Dirk, that is exactly right. The world would be a boring place if we were all wired the same. I am thankful every day that God made us each unique. And I'm sorry if I mention God a lot, and I'm not like one of those freaky religious types. I'm not like Carrie White's mother. But I do believe, and I hope that doesn't offend any of you guys by me mentioning God sometimes. I definitely don't want to offend anybody or put anybody off. I would never get on my soapbox and go on a religious rant because I'm not like that. I'm not going to push anything on anybody, but it has come to my attention. Nobody has told me this, that I do mention God sometimes, and I definitely don't want to offend anybody. So that's out there. But then moving along, um, this is the 4K of Halloween. Um, and this is not, I do have the Scream Factory release, but when I was grabbing these things real quick, I just grabbed the previous 4K release. Um, Darky said, "No, I'm a believer, not a fanatic, but definitely a believer." Yeah, um, I think sometimes people can go too far one way or the other. I sometimes wish that we could all hit a happy medium with things like that, but in this day and age, I don't think that's going to happen. Um, so, you get two discs with this one. The disc one is the 4K, and disc two is the Blu-ray. Um, and they both have the movie and special features on it. Um, Disc one has audio commentary with writer director John Carpenter and actor Jamie Lee Curtis, which I believe is an old commentary that came out on one of the other previous releases and just got ported over. Jay, you say filthy heathen here, not offended. Don't worry about being oh, about people being offended. Well, thank you, Jay. I you know I catch myself saying things, and like I said, sometimes people get really turned off by certain things people say, and it's the most innocent things, but I just wanted to get that out there. um, Jay, you say happy medium, that's why I come here. Well, I'm glad that you guys have found a comfortable place to come and feel like that you're not, because I'm not going to judge anybody here. Um, I just give my opinions on movies. You guys give your opinions on movies, and I think that's great. I think that's part of having a healthy respect for other people. Um, John, you say, I honestly love two the most just because it was the first I saw. Plus, the Mr. Sandman thing was creepy, but a good idea. John, actually, you mentioned that reminded me that Halloween 2 I saw first, and I saw it on television. Um, and so we got that in common. And I did think the Mr. Sandman theme was a good idea, and I agree that it was creepy. Curly Jaws, you say, oh, now you definitely got to watch Bloody Bloody Bible Camp. Love to hear your thoughts on it. I still need to watch that one, Curly Jaws. And I'm getting to the point where I'm thinking about giving Midsummer a try. So for those of you that have been encouraging me to watch that, I'm really, really thinking about doing that. So, you get the Night She Came Home featurette. For those of you that were at Horror Hound when Jamie Lee Curtis was there, you will really enjoy this because it a lot of the stuff was from Horror Hound was shown on there, and I believe the Dead Pit Boys are actually shown in the background in one scene, waiting to maybe waiting to get their picture with Jamie Lee Curtis. I can't remember. Wes could probably comment more on that. But it's a really good featurette. Also, there's a On Location 25 Years Later featurette. The Blu-ray has TV version footage, trailer, TV spots, and radio spots. And I always like this television footage that they either have separately or put back into the movie, and you've got the option to watch the television version, because you get a chance to see scenes that you would never have had the option to see unless you were able to catch these movies on television when they were broadcast. Um, Dougie say, "Oh, Curly is brutal and badass. Going to be a podcast?" uh, oh, Curly Jaws says, "Yes, very soon." John, you say, "Curly, we need more wrestling shoots." I need to take a look at some of your wrestling shoots, so Curly Jaws, because they look like they would be entertaining. Um, oh, Curly Jaws, you say, "Will definitely be more wrestling shoots. Got to buy some Grey Goose first." Is Grey Goose good, old Curly Jaws? I'm like taking a sabbatical from drinking for a while. Um, since I got so sick the last time I overdid it. Uh, but I was just wondering if Grey Goose was good. And Darky say, "Cool, I'll be tuned in. Been liking your vids. Gonna be great. You and Metal Man." Oh, gotta love Metal Man. He's he's an awesome dude and a very nice person too. I don't know if he'd want anybody to know how nice he is, but he is a really nice guy. But anyway, that is Halloween. If you have never seen this movie, I say go out and get it right away. Don't even stay for my live stream. Just go get this movie and watch it. Uh, Oh, Curly Jaws, you say, "Best vodka ever. I literally can drink it straight over ice." Really? Is that an expensive vodka? Oh, Curly Jaws, I didn't know. I couldn't recall pricing on that. Not that I'm going to go out and buy any, because like I said, I'm taking a little sabbatical from drinking the alcohol. Um, but anyway, moving right along is When a Stranger Calls. And I've talked about this movie before. That's so cool because you can see Jamie Lee Curtis's eye through there, because that's a green horror sticker, and my green screen, the chroma key and stuff, is like picking up on that. So that's really cool. I just noticed it. It's $60. Okay. That I might have to wait a long while before I get anything like that. But I know that I've talked about this movie before, but I absolutely love this movie. This movie sends cold chills down my spine every time I watch it, but that's why I love it, because this movie works on so many levels. And you actually get to see Carol Kane in a serious role. Because most of the time, as many of you know, Carol Kane's been in comedic roles. But in this, definitely not a comedic role. And I think she really does a fantastic job in this movie of, during the first part of the movie, being the babysitter and getting the calls from a guy asking her if she's checked the children yet. This is basically an updated version of the old urban legend about the babysitter getting phone calls, and the calls are coming from inside the house. And what makes this even more terrifying is, even though it doesn't show the dead children, for which I'm thankful, it turns out that this guy has killed the kids hours before everything comes to a head. So he's probably already killed the kids when he makes that first phone call to Carol Kane's character. And I don't know. I just feel like everything works in this movie. That Fred Walton, who directed it and also directed April Fool's Day later, he knew what the hell he was doing with this movie. And it also has Charles Durning in this, Colleen Dewhurst, and Tony Beckley, who sadly is no longer with us, played the menacing killer in this. And Just everything clicked, everything worked, all the scares worked. Um, and they remade this movie, and I just feel like it didn't work as well because this was in the age of the cell phones and all that. And granted, the girl was out in the middle of nowhere pretty much in the remake. Um, but for whatever reason, it just did not click with me like the original did. Um, well, oh, Curly Jaws, actually, Jamie Lee Curtis is not in When a Stranger Calls, but Carol Kane is. But maybe there's a version floating around where Jamie Lee Curtis is in it, and I'm just not aware of it. I don't know. But the version I've got, Jamie Lee Curtis is not in it. Um, but there's your basic plot. When I talked about the urban legend, about the babysitter getting the phone calls, and the phone calls are coming from inside the house. And there's a similar scene to Black Christmas where the cop has discovered that the calls are coming from inside the house, and he tells her to get out of the house right away. She opens the door. Charles Durning is standing there. Charles Durning is like the main cop in the film. And she screams. And then it goes from that setup into the middle part. This was actually a short film where it just had the bookend parts of the movie with Carol Kane. Um, but when they turned it into a full length movie, of course, they had to have a little extra padding. Therefore, the middle part with Colleen Dewhurst's character, where the killer starts kind of stalking Colleen Dewhurst's character. And a lot of people didn't like that that was added. I think they thought that that slowed down the film. And that maybe this film would have been better if it just stayed as a short. But I actually like the parts with Colleen Dewhurst. I think there are frightening elements in it as well. The real core of the story, though, is Carol Kane's story. So after we have the Colleen Dewhurst stuff, then we go back to the Carol Kane story. And since that awful night where those kids got murdered, and she almost got murdered, she has since married and has two kids of her own. And the horror pretty much starts happening for her again. Only this time she's not a babysitter; she's her mother, and she's um, frightened for the safety of her children. Um, there are several key scenes that just kind of chill my bones. One of the scenes is when uh, Kurt, the killer, is remembering when he was in the mental hospital, and you see flashes of him in a straitjacket, and he looks completely crazed, and that is very disturbing to me. There's another scene where Charles Durning is listening to the psychiatrist's tape of Kurt when they first brought him into the mental hospital, and he doesn't want to be touched, and he lets out a scream and a growl kind of combined that is blood curdling. Um, the other scene that there's actually a couple more scenes that I think are pretty chilling, and one is when Carol Kane and her husband are in the restaurant, and they've left the kids with the babysitter, and they're out celebrating her husband's promotion. And they're at a fancy restaurant, so um, the I guess maitre d' or whatever comes over and tells the husband that they have a phone call, and Carol Kane says, "Oh well, I'll take it." And she goes and she answers. She says hello, and Kurt's on the line, and he says, "Have you checked the children yet?" And she lets out a most blood curdling scream. And then uh, they frantically call their house, and the babysitter has no idea what they're talking about. They rush home. Um, the cops don't find anything. Um, they definitely don't find Kurt. Um, so, she goes and Carol Kane goes and checks on the kids, and they seem to be okay. Her and her husband end up going to sleep, and of course, Carol Kane can't sleep, so she goes down to the kitchen to get her something to drink or whatever, and checks on the children again. And her son has what appears to be like, does anybody remember those sugar daddy um, candies that were on the stick? Um, it appears that he has one of those, and she keeps asking him, where did he get that? Who gave it to him? And he's half asleep. Yeah, he doesn't know. So she's a little bit disturbed, but she doesn't see anything out of place, really. So she goes back to bed. She thinks it's her husband in bed with her, and she hears somebody whispering, and then she hears noises coming from the closet, and she's like, oh my God, he's in my closet. So then she goes to shake her husband awake. It's Kurt in bed with her. I basically knocked out her husband, drug him in the closet, and took his place in the bed. And he goes like that at her, and it like tries to kill her. And of course, it's at that point that Charles Durning shows up. But that is another very disturbing scene. This movie, in my opinion, is chock full of disturbing scenes. Um, Well, she said, you're watching Exorcist 2 right now. Please remember me in prayer. I will. I definitely will. But you know what Steve says? He loves Pazuzu's Reagan. Uh, Jay said, wow, sugar daddy candy meant something else to high school girls where I grew up. I bet it did. I bet it did, Jay. Um, so, this actual version of it, the Blu-ray that I have, it looks like one of the VHS tapes. This is one of those retro covers where it looks like the VHS tape that you would get at the video store. But actually, it's not. It's a Blu-ray. And there's not really any special features to speak of on this. As you can see right there. There's just basically the synopsis and the people that are in it, and Fred Walton's name for directing it and all that. But any version you could get of this original When a Stranger Calls, I highly recommend it. And if you've never seen it, oh man, I don't know how much more highly I could recommend this movie. But anyway, that's When a Stranger Calls. Oh my goodness, guys. I think I'm going to be able to get through these last 10. May have to speed it up a little bit. But here is another movie with Jamie Lee Curtis. And you guys are probably going to figure out which one I'm talking about. Durgy say Exorcist 2 needs a 4K. I bet Steve would buy it. I'll tell you a quick story about The Exorcist 2. I had watched The Exorcist, and I loved it. And and it was disturbing and hit all the right spots and all of that. And then I guess I was expecting more of the same with Exorcist 2. Boy, was I in for a shock. And, Linda Blair does a great job in this movie as well, but the movie is so long and so slow and plotting, in my opinion, that I was just completely shocked. I was like, hey, I just watched The Exorcist, and now I'm watching The Exorcist 2, and what's going on here? I just did not. I think I've got some chocolate in my tooth again. I gotta quit eating those cupcakes, I'm telling you guys. Well, it looks a little better now, but anyway, I gotta quit eating chocolate cupcakes. Um, but anyway, enough about Exorcist 2. We're gonna move on to the next Jamie Lee Curtis film in my stack, which is Prom Night. Now, this was a movie that I heard a lot about from not only my parents, who saw it at a drive-in when I was quite young, but I went to the drive-in with them and remember the first scene pretty much, but don't remember anything else. And so this movie was another one that was talked about quite a bit by my parents and by my aunt Sandy, who was like my movie watching buddy for a long time. And she talked about it too, and I was like, wow, I'll be so glad when I can find a copy of this so I can watch it. And I finally did at one of the local video stores, and I was like, oh, I'm renting this and I'm watching it. I did not know at the time that it was a Canadian film. I just knew it was a slasher film that I had not seen. And it had Jamie Lee Curtis in it, and I completely wanted to watch it. So, this begins like a lot of other slasher movies during the same time period. Because it starts out with kids playing a hide and seek game, only instead of, them counting and then just going and trying to find people, the person that is called the killer, and they count to 10 and then they say the killer is coming, the killer is going to get you, which is perhaps in Canada this was a game that kids played. Instead of playing hide and seek, they played this game. I don't know, but in any event, it was kind of a weird game for young kids to be playing. But they were playing it, and I thought this was a school at first. They were in an abandoned building. It looked like a school. It turns out later you figure out it was a convent. And so I guess they didn't really try to keep these old buildings locked up within the confines of this movie or whatever. And so these kids were just able to enter it freely and go in there and play this killer game, this killer hide and seek game. And while several of the kids are in there playing the game, the younger incarnation of Jamie Lee Curtis's character, her twin brother and sister, Robin and Alex, are with her, and they're on their way to school, and they see one of the kids, Nick, who Kim, which will be Jamie Lee Curtis's character, has a crush on. They see him out on the ledge of this building, which is very dangerous too. It's almost like these kids were asking for trouble or something, but and Kim says, "Hey, Nick," and he's like this. He's like, "Be quiet," because he doesn't want Wendy, who's it, to find him. And so Kim kind of puts her head down and she says, "He's an idiot anyway." So she's forgotten one of her books, one of her school books, so she's got to go back to the house. She tells Robin and Alex to go on to school, and then she'll catch up when she can. So Alex is getting ready to leave and go to school, but Robin's just standing there looking at the building. And Alex tries to tell her they don't want you in their game, because I guess they make fun of her because she's shy and she stutters, and very adorable little girl, but for whatever reason, some of these kids don't like her, don't want to have her in their games or anything like that. What she say, I'm sure Skiing Factory will do it. um, but so Alex says, well, I'm not waiting, and he leaves, and you hear Robin say, Alex. But then she goes into the convent, and she comes across Nick, and she screams, and he doesn't want to be caught. He doesn't want the killer to find him. He doesn't want Wendy to find him. And he tells her, shut up. And then you hear Wendy saying, we're coming to find you, Nick, or something like that. And he says, now you've done it, he says to Robin. And he says, here, killers, here. Because every time the person that's it finds one of the people, they get added to the killer brigade and go and try to find everybody else. And so they end up like pushing Robin. They've got a circle around her, and all the kids are pushing her and stuff. And she keeps trying to back away from them, get away from them. And she winds up falling out of a window. And then the kids get really scared, and the majority of them want to call the cops, or we've got to get some help right now. We got to get some help from the adults. But Wendy says, and probably one of those more famous lines in slasher movies, if we tell anybody about it, they'll say it's our fault. Who would believe it was an accident? So she makes them promise to never tell anybody what happened, and then they just leave. Robin's body is found later, and it's assumed that the local pedophile has tried to attack her, and when she tried to fight him off, he killed her. So then it moves ahead to the kids are grown up, they're in high school, and it's going to be their prom. And somebody starts calling the people that were involved in Robin's death, and leaving really, or when they answer, giving them really creepy messages and stuff, like, tonight I'll see you at the prom. Keep in mind, there's one person that the killer does not get a hold of, and that's going to come into play later in the film. I'm not going to give that away for you, especially in case you have not seen this movie. But this has always been one of my favorite slasher movies, not only because it has Jamie Lee Curtis in it, but just because I think it's a really well-made slasher. There were a lot of them that came after this that could be considered like cookie cutter films. And, people probably say, well, if there wasn't stuff like Prom Night and stuff, they wouldn't have kept, churning these similar films out. But this was the beginning of that golden age of slashers when they hadn't been done to death and there weren't remakes being made all the time of these. Um, and I remember Synapse Films, of course, put this out. And this is another, and I'm eagerly awaiting a 4K release, and I hope that that is forthcoming. Um, but I remember Steve telling me when I still had this ordered, I was waiting for it to come in. Um, Steve had told me that he saw, like, probably on Synapse's Facebook page, how awesome, like, this movie looked. Um, Steve said it looked like it had been made yesterday or whatever, that it looked so good. And it does indeed look very good on this Blu-ray. And believe it or not, I'm looking at this quote on the back of it. James Scott of Bloody Disgusting said this was one of his all-time favorite slashers, which, you know, I'm not saying anything bad about the Bloody Disgusting guys or anything, but usually you don't hear those guys saying how great something like Prom Night is. You might hear, you know, Rue Morgue saying something about how great it is because it's Canadian and stuff. Another unique feature of this movie, I guess would be the best way to put it, is Leslie Nielsen's in it, playing Kim and Alex's dad. And I just think it's perfect because so many people are used to Leslie Nielsen being in comedic roles. But I think he does an excellent job at playing this more dramatic role. And he really, really pulls off the character of Mr. Hammond very, very well, in my opinion. You've also got some really good special features. And a little side note about Prom Night is a few years back, an album was put out, an LP, vinyl, whatever you want to call it, was put out. And Steve got it for me for my birthday. And it comes with a lot of prom extras, including a prom night condom, which is still in the package. And it's in my LP cover. If you can get your hands on a copy of that at this point, I'd highly recommend it. It is a great package. But back to the special features on Prom Night, you get a brand new 2K high definition transfer from the original 35mm camera negative, 5.1 surround remix specifically created for this release. There's also the original 2.0 mono included for you purists. There's audio commentary with director Paul Lynch and screenwriter William Gray, which I enjoyed. What I really like in this Blu-ray is the Horrors of Hamilton High, the Making of Prom Night featurette, that has so many of the people that worked on the film that are interviewed. One of them being Michael Tuff, who plays the adult version of Alex. I met Michael Tuff a few years ago at Horror Hound, the Horror Hound that Jamie Lee Curtis was at. And he is a very nice man, very sweet and accommodating and all that. I do have a picture with him. I had him sign my Prom Night mini poster that Steve got for me. So if you get a chance to meet Michael Tuff at a convention, I highly recommend that you do. There's also a collection of additional scenes added for the television broadcast, which is very interesting. Steve actually has the television cut of it on the hard drive, so I have gotten to see the scenes integrated into the movie. There are never-before-seen outtakes from Prom Night, exclusive to the Blu-ray. Motion Still Gallery, exclusive to the Blu-ray. Original radio spots, which are also exclusive to the Blu-ray. original theatrical trailer and television spots. But there's Prom Night. Highly, highly, highly recommend this one. If you don't have this, I highly recommend you try to find this special edition from Synapse to watch or to introduce yourself to this movie. Okay. Jay say, LOL, Dirk. LP no scratches gimmick condom has been used $100 of best offer. Oh, goodness. Okay. So, the next one I want to talk about, this had, in my opinion, one of the greatest advertising campaigns, I guess maybe you would say. This is my opinion, mind you. And I remember this was back when a lot of the grocery stores would have a video selection. And I went to, I think it was Bueller's Bilo. And I can't remember if it was Bueller's then or it was something else for that. But for whatever, whatever it was, they had several videos to choose from. And they had a pretty extensive horror section. And, Dirk, you say you're not seeing everybody's comments for some reason. I don't know if it's this way for you, Dirk, but so I can see everybody's comments. I have a little, I guess, drop down beside live chat, and I have to make sure that I select all chat messages. Otherwise, I'll only see the people that are like really, I guess, top chatters or whatever. And so I don't know if that's the same on y'all's end, that you have to change something, but it's possible, I guess. But anyway, I saw the VHS cover for this movie, and I loved the artwork. Was really what got me to rent this. And boy, if it had been a lousy film, boy, would I have been bummed out. But it is Happy Birthday to Me. And you can see that classic artwork right there of the guy getting the kebab into his mouth and the black glove pushing that kebab into his mouth. And the only thing I thought was kind of off about the cover is it says Stephen will never ride a motorcycle again. Greg will never lift weights again. Who's killing Crawford High's snobbish top 10? It also says up here at the top, John will never eat shish kebab again. At the rate they're going, there will be no one left for Virginia's birthday party alive. The funny thing is, with the exception of Greg, these other names are not the names of the people in the film. So I don't know where the discrepancy happened. That was it? Okay, good, Dirk. Also, this tagline of 6 of the most bizarre murders you will ever see was another thing that, when they say 6 of the most bizarre murders you will ever see, I've got to watch this movie. But regardless of all that, this is still a really great slasher movie. It is Canadian as well. This is actually the Indicator release of this, which, in my opinion, is the best version of this movie. I know, like a few years back, there was a DVD that came out, like many, many moons ago. There was a DVD of this that came out where they replaced the original music and put some kind of disco music, which I'm not against disco. but it just did not fit over the opening shots of the movie, including the opening murder in the movie. Like you had this blasting disco dance music while girls getting killed, and I don't know, it just didn't gel for me. Um, so with the later releases, I guess they listened to the fans, and that the original music is back in there as well. Um, it also says on the back here, it has a warning. It says, "Warning, because of the bizarre nature of the party, no one will be seated during the last 10 minutes. Pray you're not invited." So that's kind of like a little, a different twist on the whole thing about uh, nobody will be seated in the movie theater after the first few minutes of the film or something like that. I think Hitchcock did that with Psycho, and it's been done with other films as well. This is a little bit longer movie than um, some of these, the majority of these that I'm going to talk about tonight, at 110 minutes. Um, Melissa Sue Anderson stars in this movie, which this was a really big, in my opinion, change for Melissa Sue Anderson going from Little House on the Prairie to a slasher movie. Um, and I remember, and I wish I still had that magazine interview with her. You may be able to find it online somewhere. But I remember reading an interview with her where she said that she was tired of doing the Little House on the Prairie stuff. She was tired of all the horrible things that would happen in the show. Let's make them happen to Mary, which was Melissa Sue Anderson's character. You know, in the later years for any of you that are familiar with Little House on the Prairie, you'll know they had Mary go blind. They had, I believe they had her lose a child. This just on and on and on and on. It just kept going on. And so I think she was tired of that and wanted to try her hand at something else. And something maybe a little more risky than what she was doing. Perhaps it may have been outside of her comfort zone. And I think that's really what, at that point in her life, that's what she was going for. I don't know what she's doing these days. Maybe some of you guys know. But anyway, I need to find that interview again because I'd really like to read it again. Dirk, you said, did you grab that Thriller? And they call her One Eye. I did, Dirk, but I have not had a chance to sit down and watch it. And Steve is trying to make me promise not to get the vinegar syndrome one. I don't know if I can promise that or not, but anyways. Jay, you say, I'm looking forward to the Synapse versus Vinegar Syndrome comparisons of Thriller. Yeah, I need to watch that too. But anyway, the basic plot of Happy Birthday to Me is Melissa Sue Anderson's character of Virginia was in a car accident where her mother drowned, and she had a head injury where she can't remember what happened the night her mother died, but it starts slowly coming back to her because it's like her brain is healing itself. So the memories are starting to come back. And then meanwhile, somebody is killing off her friends. I don't want to give the twist away. I know that's really basic plot, but that's about all I can give to you without giving this whole story away. I'm just going to leave it right there. But really good movie. Some really good kills in the movie, especially this shish kebab killing scene. But this is a limited dual format edition with quite a few special features. There's an HD restoration. It's got the original mono audio. There's also alternative 5.1 surround soundtrack. Alternative score experience the film with the controversial. So you have the option if you didn't hear it first time around, but it's good that they give you an option to. You're not forced into the controversial rescored electronic music soundtrack as used on the 2004 home video release. Audio commentary by the Hysteria Continues team, which is great as always, with Justin Kurzweil, Joseph Henson, Eric Thrillfall, and Nathan Johnson. Image gallery on set and promotional material, original trailer and TV spots, new and improved English subtitles. Well, if you're deaf or hard of hearing, it does have subtitles on it. An exclusive 24-page booklet with extracts from the original press kit, advertising and promotion guide, and selected film reviews. This is the UK Blu-ray premiere. Limited dual format edition of 5,000 copies. And let me show you the little booklet here that comes with it. There's Melissa Sue Anderson. You really can't see that real well because there's a lot of green in it, and my chroma key is messing with that. There's a lot of Canadian regulars in this movie, and actually the girl that plays Lauren in The Young and the Restless, for those of you that either had mothers that watched The Young and the Restless a long time ago, or you watched it yourself, no judgment here, guys, in case you did. She played Lauren on The Young and the Restless, so yeah, you get a lot of different stuff in that booklet. A lot of people, like I said, there's a lot of Canadian regulars in this, because Tracy Bregman, rather, is the one that played Lauren in The Young and the Restless. But Lisa Langlois is in this. A lot of the people from Spaz from Meatballs is in this movie. Hardware from Meatballs is in this movie, which you can see him right there. And Lisa Langlois is seated beside him. I just didn't want to. Jack Bloom, that is Spaz from Meatballs. He's in this. Matt Craven. Lenore Zahn, who's another Canadian regular. Leslie Donaldson. I love Leslie Donaldson and anything she's in. Lisa Langlois. Yeah, so you've got, I mean, you definitely know this is a Canadian film just by the actors and actresses that are in this. Let's see. Dirk, you say I grabbed that and Mass Avenger versus Ultra Villain in the layer of the naked bikini. Think it will be a great double feature. That sounds like one hell of a double feature, Dirk. Jay, you say this is objectively the best release if you have the money and can afford more than the $8. Jay, you say is Canada your second favorite country, Dana? In all honesty, Jay, some days I think Canada is my favorite country. But you know, I've talked to like Art Hindle, who was in a lot of Canadian movies. He was in Black Christmas and The Brood and all that, and the Porky's movies. And he was a really cool guy to talk to. I have Canadian friends that I discovered through Dead Pit, of course. So, yeah, have nothing bad to say about the Canadians. But anyway, there's happy birthday to me, and we're gonna move right along to um I don't know how well known this movie that I'm getting ready to talk about is. I discovered it many, many moons ago, when I was quite young, actually, which sounds bizarre. Um, and that is Graduation Day. And you'll notice that Steve got me this ultra cool slipcover. And I went back and forth. A little side note on this slipcover. I went back and forth about. At first, I told him, "Nah, you don't want. There's no sense spending that extra money for a slipcover." But then he showed me what the slipcover looked like, and is that not an awesome slipcover? So I changed my mind. And I told him to get it for me, and he laughs at me about that. I think he even talked about it on one of the live streams that he did. Um, but again, I don't know how many of you have seen Graduation Day. I really, really like it. There's nothing really like super outstanding about this movie, um, in comparison with some of these others that I'm talking about. I mean, there's not really something that makes it stand out. I just like it. Um, and you can see Christopher George there in the center, or I hope you can. Linnea Quigley is also on this. A very, a very young Vanna White is in this in a small part. For those of you that didn't know, um, and so this starts out with a track meet, and there are at least two of the track members, a guy and a girl, that have a relationship, obviously, because you see them kissing before the meet and all that. And Laura is the girl in that scene, and you see her running, and you see Christopher George, who's the track coach, saying, "Move your ass, Laura," and he's telling her how many seconds she's got to go to beat like whatever this record is, and he's got a stopwatch, and a stopwatch is going to come into play a little bit later in the movie, but sadly, Laura's character, or Laura, ends up collapsing on the track field, and it turns out that she, I believe, had a aneurysm in her brain that nobody knew that she had it. And so pushing herself so hard during that track meet caused it to burst, and she dies. So then members of the track team start getting slowly killed off, because evidently somebody's blaming the track team and Christopher George's character of the track coach for Laura's death. Meanwhile, Laura's sister comes in for the graduation, the high school graduation, to I think probably get Laura's diploma and some other things. And so she's played by Patch McKenzie, and there just always seems something a little bit off about the character. I'm not going to tell you who the killer is, but there are plenty of red herrings to be found in this movie. Vanna White still spinning letters. Where she said, "I'm only a little over halfway in this movie." God damn, what were they thinking here? I have no idea, Wes. I assume you're still talking about Exorcist 2. I don't know what possessed them to make this movie and make it in the way that they did. I'm almost think, because you can watch The Exorcist and The Exorcist 3 and be just fine, in my opinion, without ever seeing a scene from Exorcist 2. Um, but anyway, back to graduation day. Um, I think there are plenty of good kills in this. Like I said, there's not anything that really blows it out of the water or anything. There's just some reason I like it. Um, it could be the nostalgia factor. Because, it's not an extremely, well made movie. Some of these others that I've talked about are probably um, more standout movies than Graduation Day. But, there are certain times when I just like to, I'm just going to put in Graduation Day and watch it. Um, and I believe Steve actually bought me this copy of Graduation Day in addition to buying me the slipcover as well. Um, but I'm going to actually take it out of my case here and hopefully I'll be able to get it back in the plastic case. Because, well, I don't know if I'm going to be able to get it out of there or not. It's like it's almost stuck in there. That's not good. Maybe I can pull it out of the slipcover. There we go. So, this is the actual cover that was on the release before I got the slipcover. And, of course, it's got one of those wonky things that, you have to pull out and to open it. Not all the cases are made like this, but anyway, this is a Vinegar Syndrome release, and you get a new 4K restoration. You get original theatrical trailer, video interviews with lead actress Patch McKenzie, director Herb Freed, producer David Bond, and editor Martin J. Sadoff, who people with a sharp eye will realize that I believe he had something to do with Friday the 13th Part 3, I think. There's also a commentary track with David Bond and a commentary track with The Hysteria Continues. So, let's see if I can get this back in there now. I had to actually put tape on the bottom of this plastic thing, and see now the top's not wanting to go in there right either. My gosh. This drives me crazy. But anyway, I'm not going to fool with that too much more. But anyway, that is Graduation Day. Even though this is not the best of the best or anything like that, it's still worthy of a watch, especially if you haven't seen it before. I think you will enjoy it. If you like those 80s slasher films, I think you will really enjoy it. How many more we got to go? Like 7? You guys haven't fallen asleep on me yet, have you? It's almost 10 o'clock. Man. I'm going to try to get through these, guys. Okay. So the next one, keep in mind this is actually a double feature. And we're not going to talk about Jekyll and Hyde together again. We are going to talk about Student Bodies. And I don't know how many of you have seen Student Bodies, but it says there, before there was Scream, there was Student Bodies, the world's first comedy horror movie. Now, I don't really know if that's entirely true, but it came out in 1981, so feel free to, name out some other ones that came before that. But, I remember laughing so much at this movie. There are people getting killed with eggplants in this movie, paper clips, and then they're stuffed in trash bags. Let's see, horsehead bookends, they're killed with. Dirk, you say Student Bodies is an airplane of horror for you. Yeah, I think probably it is for a lot of horror fans. I really didn't know what to expect the first time I watched this. But like the breather, I mean, and like him getting stuck in the gum on the staircase, and the whole thing about where he's watching the girls in the shower in the locker room, and he's like, I'm taking it out of my pants. I'm doing what my mommy told me not to do. And then he goes through the whole thing and then just basically, oh, and passes out at climax. It's like, and then you have a janitor who has obviously got some mental things not correct. He's not wired up correct at all. Who he says sometimes Malbert pee red, and like people are drinking like red punch in one scene where he says that, and everybody's like spitting it out and stuff. Saturday the 14th, yes. I don't think that I watched Saturday the 14th. Would you recommend it? But so the Student Bodies has somebody killing people off in a high school setting, and I don't think anything is ever really scary about this movie. It's pretty much totally comedic the whole time. Um, yeah, that shit is funny as hell. Okay. Um, I mean, the basic plot line is somebody is killing people in this high school, and like it, a babysitter gets killed, her boyfriend who she's has sex with, and then um, one of them goes to take a shower, and they both end up getting killed. And like when the parents come home, they find these dead people, and all the mother wants to do is scream about chicken. She ate the chicken, and there was KF chicken in the refrigerator. And the husband, I think, takes a rubber band and puts the piece that the girl bit out back in the chicken. Um, it's just wacky good fun, in my opinion. Um, you say it's okay. I like Student Bodies more. Okay. So it'd probably be worth a watch, though, but don't expect it to be another Student Bodies. Um, so if you want to watch a wacky slasher spoof, this will be right up your alley. I can't recommend this one enough for just the wacky fun time you're going to have. And, I would recommend getting a bunch of friends together and watching it. Actually, this might be one I'd like to get Steve to do a commentary on or a watch along on. Would you guys be game for that if we decided to do one of those things? I maybe could get him to do a watch along more than a commentary, because the watch alongs are kind of like commentaries because we're talking over the movie. So just let me know in the chat if you guys will be up for that. But anyway, highly recommend Student Bodies, but don't be expecting it to be a horror movie because it's pretty much comedy. Comedy for horror fans, anyway. Dirk, you say for sure? Okay, so I'm going to basically try to talk Steve into doing one or the other. Dirk, is there one that you would like better? Would you prefer us to do a watch along, or would you prefer us to do a commentary? Jay, you say, hell yeah, I have a gummy. So I guess, Jay, you're all for it too as well. Yeah, I don't know if he'll have any gummies when he does it. He's kind of taking a sabbatical from the gummies. So, anyway, we're going to move right along here. Y'all feel free to put stuff in the chat as I go through I can't even talk, remaining 6 films as quickly as I can. You want to watch along, Jay? Okay. I'm going to talk to Steve about that. I'll tell him the fans have spoken, so he's got to do this. Um, anyway, this is the 1982 Slumber Party Massacre. Don't even ask me about that new one that came out because it looks so horrible that I don't think I'm going to watch it. Jerky, say either way, whatever y'all would rather do. Okay. Like I said, it'd probably be easier for me to get him to agree to a watch along than a commentary. Which, anyway, this is the Steelbook Slumber Party Massacre that Scream Factory put out. I also have, I'm not going to get him down, but I actually have the Driller Killer action figure or whatever that goes along with this. I guess I paid like $60 or whatever it was to get both of them at the time. But basically, the title is what this movie is. There is a slumber party and there is a massacre at the slumber party. And so you have a girls' basketball team, which I know I probably brought this up before when I was talking about this movie in another live stream. And this is like, and for some of you that have seen this movie like I have, and more than likely have seen it more than once, you'll know what I'm talking about when I say this is the worst girls basketball team I have ever seen in my life. They cannot dribble, they can't shoot, they can't do anything very well in this movie. 2 was fun too. Yes, it was. I had a lot of fun with that movie as well. And that one had a few comedic elements. It wasn't like Student Bodies funny. It wasn't like ha ha funny all the way through. But it did have some funny moments where one of the girls is talking about tranks and tranquilizers and all that. But anyway, back to the original Slumber Party Massacre. Again, I have this in a plastic case to protect the steel book. I'll see if I can take it down here. Y'all can see that cover a little bit better. But anyway, the plot is there's this girls basketball team, or there's only, yeah, dark comedy, dark, that's exactly right. I totally lost my train of thought there. Not all of the girls in the on the basketball team are the main girls, but there is a core group of girls, and you pick up on who this core group of girls is pretty quickly. As you can see, I'm trying to point to it, but as you can see over in the corner there, close to my microphone, I have what was used as a sticker that I think Fright Rags put with some of their t-shirts when you ordered. As many of you know that order from Fright Rags, you usually get some sort of candy like Warheads or something, and then you'll get a sticker or something like that with your order. But anyway, so the girls are planning a party because Trish, who's the main girl, her parents are out of town, and so she's planning this big slumber party. They want to invite Valerie, who is the new girl in town. Well, Trish wants to invite Valerie, and two of the other girls are okay with it. Um, but one girl is not. She's kind of the snobby one. And she's like, I don't know why we have to invite her and all that. And like, they're all discussing it. And on the other side of the lockers where they're at, Valerie is at getting dressed and ready to go home. And Trish doesn't realize that she's hearing what they're discussing. And so she tries to catch Valerie on her way out and says, Hey, I'm having a few girls over. Would you like to come over? And she's like, I'm sorry, I can't. And she exits pretty quickly. And so at that moment, Trish discovers, oh, hey, she heard us talking about it, and she heard what one of my friends was saying. And Diane, Diane, that was her name. Diane is the snobby one. And so yeah, it did not work out well. Trish was trying to do the good girl thing and invite the new girl to her slumber party, and Diane kind of nixed that. So, um, actually, a little side note on this again. Um, Michael Valella, who plays the driller killer, I met him, I believe it's Cinema Wasteland many, many moons ago. One of the Cinema Wastelands that Steve and I went to. He was such a nice man. And he talked to me for a long time about adopting a child and all of that. And it's just like, you see these guys in movies, and it's not that we get perceptions that they're serial killers or anything, but when you meet, like 9 times out of 10, when you meet these guys in person, it's like you're meeting someone from your hometown or something. Um, and I just felt so relaxed talking to them. And you know how you go up to some of these people, and not that they're mean to you or anything, but some of these people are so reserved that they don't really have a lot to say. But with Michael Valella, it was not like that. I mean, he did most of the talking. I mean, I told him how much I enjoyed his performance in Slumber Party Massacre and all that, and he thanked me for that. But then he starts telling me like personal things, and it's like he doesn't have to tell me that stuff, but he wanted to. And so I had a very good experience with him, and I would highly recommend if you ever see him at a convention, um, to go up and talk to him, because he's a very, very interesting man, very intelligent man. Um, so there are, special features on here. That I'm not remembering all of them, and of course, with this being the steel book, I've already peeled off that kind of stickery part that has all the special features on it. But there is commentary with Michael Valella and the director and the girl that Deborah DeLiso, who plays Kim in the movie. I was sad that they could not find some of the other people, like Michelle Michaels, who played Trish, um, and the girl that played Diane, and Andre Noor, or whatever her name is, the other girl in the movie, and of course, um, the girl that played Valerie, Robin Rochelle, was one name that she was known under. And Robin Steele was the other name that she went under. I think Robin Rochelle may have been her married name. But she, unfortunately, many years after this movie was made, ended up ending her life. I don't know what was going on. I've heard bits and pieces like that she had a problem with alcohol and stuff like that. And then other people say They never saw any evidence of that. So I'm not sure, but she was so beautiful on this movie. And in later years, like she was on the sorority girls in the slime ball bolorama, and she looked like she had had a very hard life in between Slumber Party Massacre and this movie. Um, and I don't, like I said, she wasn't ugly at all. She just looked like things had been really rough for her and had taken a toll on her during the years in between the two movies. So very sad ending to her. I think she could have had an incredible career, not only in slasher movies, but even if she had tried her hand at some other types of movies, um, I think she would have been perfect for them. But she is so beautiful in this movie. This is the Robin Steele I want to remember. And she was so sweet and stuff. And sorority girls in this Slimo Bolorama, she was a bitchy sorority sister. So I liked this version of Robin Steele a lot better. Um, it was great that she could play, different roles and stuff like that. This was just a character I really liked, the character of Valerie that she played. Um, so anyway, Michael Vallella's character of Russ Thorne had killed a bunch of people in 1969, and then he escapes from, I'm guessing, prison, and comes back to kill more people off in this neighborhood. And um, again, I think Michael Vallella does an excellent job as the Russ Thorne character. People have remarked that the killing with this very large drill is a very phallic symbol, and I'm not going to deny that. Even the movie poster makes it look very phallic. So, again, not like the perfect movie or a great movie by any stretch of the imagination, but I feel like it's a fun movie. And if you want even more fun, watch part two with Crystal Bernard um, playing the Courtney, or I mean, not Courtney. Um, Courtney is actually uh, Crystal Bernard's uh, Crystal Bernard's character, but yeah, Crystal Bernard does play Courtney. Good Lord, it's getting too late. I'm starting to get sorry, guys. But anyway, Crystal Bernard plays the Courtney character, which was played by another girl. I can't remember her name for the life of me on the original one. But anyways, I highly recommend both of them, actually. Um, but this is Slumber Party Massacre. Highly, highly recommend it. If you haven't seen it, I recommend you try to find a copy and watch it. Maybe some of you that didn't get in on this version have got one of the older versions, or you can get a version from a friend or whatever. Let me try to get this closed here. I have a terrible time with these. I'm going to have to tell Steve. He's the one that buys these cases. It's like, I don't know if we're going to have to get different cases or what, but sometimes you just can't get them closed right. Okay. Guys, I am going to step away for just 1 second because I'm starting to get a headache. And as I've said before, with me being diabetic, sometimes that's an indicator that my blood sugar's getting low. And it might be also why I'm a little confused. So I don't want to go wacko on you guys. So I'm going to go grab something real quick. And this may mess up my green screen a little bit. I'm going to try to minimize how much I mess it up. Well, actually, I think I'm going to put the background on for you guys. I'll be right back. Okay. Thank you, Jay. I actually did take care of myself. I got a little orange juice, and I hope Steve doesn't mind because he told me earlier I could have these lovely curly fries. Um, he actually got him something from Just Wings. I don't know how many of you have ate anything from Just Wings, but usually you can get a big old thing of wings, which he's got right here, and also a big thing of fries. And he actually got two different types of wings, one with dry rub on it, and I forget what the other kind was, but then he got fries with both of them. I don't think he realized he was going to get fries with both of them, which is why he told me I could have some of these fries. So actually, I'm feeling a little better now. Be honest with you guys, I was starting to feel really woozy. I've been having some sinus trouble as well, so uh, I just wanted to be sure and cover all my bases and make sure that I didn't go weird on you guys. So I am back now, and my wife told me not to touch the leftover fried chicken. Well then, buddy, you better not touch it then. I've neglected to tell Steve not to touch some stuff, and when I come in with a craving for a certain thing, like working the evening shift at the library, where I don't get off till 9 o'clock, and I'm really looking forward to something, and Steve has already ate it, oh man. You don't want to be on the receiving end when I get upset over something like that. Oh, thank you, Dirk. I'm glad that y'all are so understanding. Um, so, anyway, moving along, we got 5 more to go. I promise I'm going to try to go through these as quick as I can. I think I think some of you guys have probably already tuned out on me because I haven't seen Aaron put anything in the chat. Uh, Wes has been kind of here and there. Dirk, you say my old lady made shepherd's pie. Oh man, Dirk, I love shepherd's pie, and I bet your wife did a good job on it too. Actually, I may have told you guys this for those of y'all. Dang, one of those dang fruit flies around here again. Um, Gory Bits, actually, I didn't have Prom Night 2 on the roster to talk about tonight. Um, but if I do a part 2 of one of these, which I'm seriously thinking about, I could possibly talk about it then, because I enjoy prom night too. I really do. Um, but like I was saying, talking about shepherd's pie made me think of what I made a few days ago. Actually, Saturday, when Steve was doing this live stream, before I came on there at the end, I was actually making Guinness beef stew. Oh my gosh. If I did make it myself, I don't mean to brag, but that beef stew was amazing. Um, I highly recommend, if you guys want to make a Guinness beef stew, to use the recipe online. Just put like Instapot beef stew in, and it should come up. But anyway, moving right along. I'm getting really irritated at this fruit fly that's going around here. Is a movie that I didn't see on any of the lists for high school horror films, and I'm not sure why. Um, Maybe people just didn't think about it, or didn't think it was worthy of having on a list. This is also a Stephen King adaptation directed by John Carpenter, and that is Christine. And this is another, of course, one of my favorites. I think the book was awesome. I think John Carpenter did a phenomenal job of directing this. Now, I know there are some people that that don't like this film and don't think that Carpenter, I guess, did a good job with it. Time Magazine actually said Carpenter's best since Halloween. I don't know if I would go that far, because The Thing was actually before this. So The Thing has always been at the top of many of my lists. But I do like this one. And I think Keith Gordon playing the Arnie Cunningham part was fantastic. They picked another perfect actor, in my opinion, to play the Arnie Cunningham part. Go away, Morgan Wilson. You bot. But anyway, Christine, the basic story of Christine is basically it's a haunted car story. And in many ways, like a possession story, because Arnie Cunningham discovers on his way home with his friend Dennis this car for sale. And it's a 1958 Plymouth Fury. This is an awesome looking car, by the way. In my opinion, I like old cars. I like old 50s cars, and I also like muscle cars as well. But anyway, he discovers this dilapidated 1958 Plymouth Fury sitting in someone's driveway with a for sale sign on it. And he asks Dennis to go back. You know, he's really adamant that he wants to take a look at her. And at first, Dennis thinks he's talking about a girl. And he is in a way, but he's talking about a girl car who they find out has been named Christine. He just has to have her. Even if he has to suffer the wrath of his mother, who, when he brings the car home and parks it out in front of the house, his dad is like, oh boy. And his mother is a real bitch. Because not only does she get all over Arnie for getting a car, she also gets on Dennis for allowing him to get the car. I mean, how does one allow somebody to get a car? Well, then she tells Arnie he can't keep the car at the house, so he has to take it to the local garage, or the guy's kind of a dick to him that owns the garage. But then he kind of softens up to Arnie over time and gives him a job taking parts back and forth and stuff like that. Um, so Arnie starts restoring the car at this garage. And for some odd reason, the car seems to, in no time, look pristine and look like it did in 1958 or 1957, rather. Um, and there are changes that start to happen to Arnie. He starts to take on a very cold, mean, crazy persona. And we soon discover that he's being possessed by the car and by the car's previous owner. Um, so, in some of the cases, the car is actually killing people. And in some of the cases, Arnie's behind the wheel. And we don't discover that for a little while till we get a little ways into the movie. Um, but I really I love Keith Gordon playing Arnie. I love John Stockwell playing his friend Dennis. Alexandra Paul is also in this as the love interest. Um, Harry Dean Stanton's in this, Robert Prosky. Um, and then you have the great John Carpenter directing, based on the book by Stephen King. Um, Dirk, you say, I think The Thing is better than Halloween. It's definitely more rewatchable to me. And I could see that, Dirk. I could really see somebody. The thing about Halloween is I'll watch Halloween anytime, but traditionally for me, it's a fall / Halloween movie. Um, and generally, that's when I like to watch it best. The Thing, on the other hand, I feel like I could watch it anytime. Now, Steve considers The Thing more of like a wintertime type movie, but it doesn't have to be wintertime for me to get in the mood to watch it. Um, we're getting ready to get into spring, although I don't think Friday or Saturday is going to feel much like spring around here because I think it's going to be like 26 degrees for a high. That's pretty chilly. But we're getting ready to get into spring type weather and summer then and all that. But I could still watch The Thing. You know, it doesn't have to be cold and snowy for me to watch The Thing. I mean, I've done it, but it doesn't have to be that way for me. Dirk, you say, really, I watch Christine more than Halloween as well. Now that's interesting too. I really enjoy Christine. And like I said, I know I've heard rumblings of people that say that it's not a really good film. But in my opinion, how can you not enjoy a movie with this many well drawn characters? And I think it seems like to me that they put just the right actors and actresses in these parts. Again, it feels like they were made for these parts. Like Keith Gordon, he is Arnie Cunningham. Um, and I absolutely, speaking of Keith Gordon, you know how Kurt Russell and John Carpenter did that fantastic commentary for The Thing? Well, this commentary on this disc with John Carpenter and Keith Gordon is awesome as well. I love it. Um, but there's also deleted scenes on this. There's Christine Ignition, Christine Fast and Furious, and Christine Finish Line, which are little featurettes. Um, by the way, this movie looks fantastic in 4K. I highly recommend, if you have the ways and means to watch it in 4K and you don't have this already and are thinking about maybe purchasing it, definitely get this version. This is the 35th anniversary of it as well. So that is Christine. The next one, and you're going to notice when I hold it up here that it's been signed by two different people from the movie. And this, again, does not take place in a high school setting. But clearly, a lot of the characters in the movie are supposed to be of high school age or about to enter high school. Um, and so you're dealing with teenagers. So I wedged this one into the high school horrors. Um, and that is Sleepaway Camp. And like I said, you'll notice that it's signed by two people from the film. One is Felissa Rose, and the other is Kathy Comey, or Catherine Comey, who played Meg. And she did sign it. The name is Meg, M-E-G. And then she put Kathy Comey and XO. And Felissa Rose says to Dana, meet me at the waterfront after the social. And she's put a little heart and Felissa Rose and XO on there as well. So both of those ladies were so super nice. I've talked more than once about how awesome Felissa Rose is when you meet her at conventions and how cordial she is and takes her time with each fan. And doesn't act like she's heard the same things repeated over and over again. She is so sweet. I cannot recommend that you guys meet her if you've never met her before and you see her at a convention. So, Sleepaway Camp, very, kind of typical plot for this type of movie, with one unique twist that I'm not going to give away in case there are some of you that have not seen this film yet. So there was a terrible boating accident that killed her father and her brother. Angela Baker, played by Felissa Rose, goes to live with her Aunt Martha, who is so kooky. That is one kooky but enjoyable character. Played by Desiree Gould, who has since passed away, unfortunately, so she's no longer with us. So the particular summer that this movie centers around, Aunt Martha decides to send her son Ricky and Angela to Camp Airwalk because she thinks it'll be good for them. But Angela gets picked on unmercifully at the camp, especially by Meg and another camper, Judy, played by Karen Fields. And slowly, the people that cause Angela harm or distress or anything like that are getting killed off at camp. I think the kills are very unique. I mean, how many times have you seen a girl get killed by having a curling iron shoved up her vagina? And I say this because I don't want, for those of you that haven't seen the movie, I don't want you to think, well, it didn't show anything. I don't think the scene needs to show it. A lot of it's in shadow. But you know exactly where that curling iron went and what it is doing to this girl. So I don't think you need a gratuitous element added in there. It works with the sound effects and all of that. The ending is also fantastic. It got a really fantastic twist that if you haven't seen the movie, I don't think you're going to pick up on. You might, but I sure didn't. And this also was a movie that my Aunt Sandy, my movie watching buddy, told me about. But this was also one of those movies where I saw the sequels, or at least part two, before I saw the original one. And I was so eager after watching the second one. I was like, oh wow, you've seen the first one and it's all gruesome and stuff, because that's what my aunt told me. So I finally was able to. I think I was finally able to rent it. Um, Jay, you say, isn't that a fetish? I don't know. What did I mention something that's a fetish? I can't even recall if I mentioned. You talking about the curling iron up the vagina, or? um, but anyway, when I watched it, I was like, I wasn't disappointed because it didn't have the comedic elements thrown in that Pamela Springsteen added to the second and third one. Um, those were fun in their own right. Um, but what Robert Hiltzik did with this original one, it was just pretty much straight ahead horror movie. Yeah, curling iron in the cooter. Oh, good Lord, I hope that's not a fetish. I really hope it's not. Um, but, speaking of Robert Hiltzik doesn't even direct movies anymore. I think he's like, isn't he like a real estate dude or something? Um, he did a really super job with this one. I don't know what the hell happened to Return to Sleepaway Camp. And, I hate to say that about him, and the fact that both Jonathan Tiersten and Felissa Rose were both in it, so they were really game for being in it. But I was sad when I watched Return to Sleepaway Camp, because he made this really great movie, Sleepaway Camp, and then years later, it's like he forgot what made Sleepaway Camp great and filled this movie with a whole bunch of like super annoying characters. The one guy in it, I wanted to kill him myself. He was so annoying. But Dirk, you say curling iron. I remember a girl in my high school had to go to the ER. She did that at a party. Are you serious, Dirk? Or are you yanking my chain? Because I would hope nobody would do that. But anyway, I don't think I need to go on and on about the plot of this, other than I think this is a fantastic horror movie. And I highly recommend you meeting Felissa Rose and Kathy Kami, because there have been several conventions I think they've both been at here kind of recently. But special features. This is the Scream Factory release. I actually have all the Scream Factory releases of the Sleepaway Camp movies. Oh, goodness. Now those fries are coming back to haunt me. Oh, my gosh. I would have never dreamed that was a thing, that anybody would even think about doing that. Ow, that hurts me thinking about it. Anyway, you get a new 2K scan of the original camera negative. New commentary with stars Felissa Rose and Jonathan Tiersten. That's a really good commentary. Also, what's good is the original commentary with director and writer Robert Hiltzik, Felissa Rose, and webmaster Jeff Hayes. For those of you that have never been to the sleepawaycampfilms.com website run by Jeff Hayes, I highly recommend it. I am going to kill that fruit fly if I can. New interviews with cast and crew, Sleepaway Camp scrapbook, a short film Judy by Jeff Hayes, theatrical trailer, and more. So that is Sleepaway Camp. Okay, so we're down to the final three, guys. The final three. I'm also eating some of Steve's chicken wings. I might get in trouble. But anyway, I'm feeling better in any event. The next one is a Wes Craven film from 1984. That is A Nightmare on Elm Street, starring Heather Langenkamp and Johnny Depp. And this is the classic, guys. I liked a lot of the other sequels, but Nightmare on Elm Street, the original Nightmare on Elm Street, I'll speak nothing of the remake, other than to say there was a remake. But this is another movie that really knocked my socks off the first time I saw it. Honestly, I'd never seen anything like it. I had never seen a character like Freddy Krueger. Robert Englund is fantastic in this movie as Freddy. And although I like a lot of the sequels, the further on the sequels went, the more comedic they tried to make Freddy. And in some cases it was okay, and in other cases I felt like it was a little overdone. But my favorite Freddy is this Freddy, and possibly the Freddy from Nightmare on Elm Street 2, which I may cover in another live stream. Yes, Dirk, that is correct. Deadly Friend I would consider in this group. And I'm glad you brought that up, because that will give me another one. Like when I do a second part to this, I can make sure that I cover that one. That was actually another one that I don't remember seeing on anybody's list, which leads me to believe that some of these lists might have been a little rushed. I may do the college horror films one, and then do a second one to the high school horrors. If that would be suitable for you guys. But yeah, when I watched this, I automatically wanted to know all I could find out on Wes Craven, and all I could find out about Robert Englund and many of the other actors and actresses in the film. When I first started discovering like interviews with Robert Englund and stuff, I can't remember what. I'm pretty sure it wasn't like Fangoria or Gore Zone or anything like that, but I cannot recall now what the magazine was where I discovered all these interviews with like Robert Englund, Wes Craven and stuff. But it was so cool. And then some of the television stations started coming out with some of these, I wouldn't really call them documentaries, but they would show film clips, and then they would talk to some of the people that were in the horror movies. And actually, Dirk, I plan to talk about Black Christmas when I do the, definitely the 74 one, whenever I do my college horror movies. But what can I say about Nightmare on Elm Street? I mean, Freddy Krueger is a guy who was a pedophile. I don't know if they make that. They call him a child murderer. A filthy child murderer, actually. Who the character of Nancy, her mother, refers to Freddy as a filthy child murderer. But I think we all know that it's been alluded to that Freddy Krueger was also a pedophile. So he, killed and molested kids. But something went wrong and he never got prosecuted for them. Somebody didn't sign in the right place or something. And he went free. So the parents in town took it upon themselves to destroy Freddy. So they burned him up in his boiler room, the boiler room where he stayed. And so now he's back to invade the kids' dreams, these teenagers' dreams, and get revenge for what their parents did to him. And so I just, there's something, and Wes Craven had talked about this in several interviews, and I was actually able to find some of the articles where he said this gave him the genesis or the idea to make A Nightmare on Elm Street. There were some, I guess, refugees from other countries where their families had fled from these war-torn countries and came to the United States. Well, I think most of the articles were in the LA Times. And Wes Craven ended up reading about these refugees that their kids were having very violent night terrors. And several of them ended up dying in their sleep of these nightmares. These nightmares were so terrifying that they died in their sleep. So they really couldn't pinpoint one reason why these kids died. But it was just like in the movie. They were hiding coffee pots filled with coffee in their rooms. They were taking caffeine pills or something similar to stay awake. They were doing all kinds of things to prevent them from going to sleep because they were so terrified of having these nightmares. Darky say, yeah, Freddy has never been my favorite slasher. It's crazy to think he was the first slasher where they marketed his merch to children. Exactly. Speaking of that, many, many moons ago, when I was really young, probably too young to be asking for what I ended up getting, but I was still a horror fan, and I knew who Freddy Krueger was, and I was not scared of him or anything like that. And I'm not putting down any kids that were scared of him because he was a scary dude. I just didn't, I grew up with horror films, and so it wasn't something that affected me that way. So anyway, I was in Big Lots. And this is back when Big Lots, like things in Big Lots were actually super cheap. I know now it's not cheap anymore to get things at Big Lots. Dirk, I remember that damn 900 number too. I never called it because I knew I'd be in Dutch with my parents if I did. But boy, I wanted to. Anyway, I was in Big Lots and I was looking at the toys and stuff like that, like you usually do when you're a kid. And they had the Freddy doll that you pulled the string on his back and he would say phrases from the movie. And my parents bought me that. I begged and pleaded for it. I was like, please, can I get this? And so they were leaning and they got it for me. For the life of me, I don't know where my Freddy doll is now. It might be at my parents' house still. But I think actually he ended up in a tote out in the outbuilding outside my parents' house. So he might still be in pretty good shape. But I remember years later, people are saying that doll went for tons of money. Of course, most people are going to collect that kind of stuff are going to want it sealed in box, and mine unfortunately was not. But I need to see if I can get it from my mom because I'd like to bring it here and like set it up with some of my other horror stuff on display. Anyway, that's a basic plot of A Nightmare on Elm Street. This is the New Line Cinema release. Um, the special features on it, you have Ready Freddy Focus Points. See alternate takes and learn filmmaking secrets from the nightmare, or secrets behind the nightmare by jumping to video highlights while watching the movie. Or two commentaries, one with Wes Craven and co-stars Heather Langenkamp and John Saxon and cinematographer Jacques Haitkin. There's a second commentary with Wes Craven, co-stars Robert Englund, Heather Langenkamp, and Ronnie Blakely, producer Robert Shane, co-producer Sarah Risher. Both of those commentaries are really good. Alternate endings, 3 featurettes, The House That Freddy Built, The Legacy of New Line Horror, Never Sleep Again, The Making of a Nightmare on Elm Street, Night Terrors, The Origins of Wes Craven's Nightmares, and there's an interactive trivia track, which you really don't see anymore on any movies that I've noticed. But Nightmare on Elm Street, highly recommend it. If you've never seen it, try to get your hands on a copy of it. I'm not saying to go out and buy all these, but if you can get your hand on a copy to watch, I would recommend it. Okay. So, guys, we got 2 more. It's almost 11 o'clock. I went on for almost 3 hours on these movies. I probably have put people to sleep by now. Anyway, this next one, well, actually the last 2 are vampire flicks. 2 very different vampire flicks, in my opinion. But this first one I'm going to talk about, I think it holds a special place in my heart because of the nostalgia factor. I remember my parents going to another married couple that they like to hang out with before they got too old to want to do stuff like that. My mom would never do that stuff now. But they were a lot younger then. And I was young, but I was old enough that they thought that I could handle this movie. My brother, on the other hand, who's 6 years younger than me, was asked to stay in the room with the other younger boy, and they played with He-Man figures. They played with Moss Man and all that stuff. But anyway, that's another story. But I got to watch the movie. And that movie is Fright Night. The original Fright Night with Chris Sarandon, Roddy McDowall, Amanda Bierce, William Ragsdale, Stephen Jeffries, and the late, great Roddy McDowall. This is written and directed by Tom Holland, who I think has done an excellent job with the stuff that he's done. Now, I can't say, speaking of X-Ray, you missed it. Well, I tell you what, you'll have to go back and watch the replay. And actually, I was telling people earlier that I'll probably do a second part to this one because there are ones I didn't cover this time. I went on about 3 hours just on 13 of them. So, I thought I would go through these pretty fast, but you know me, I end up going on and on about them. But I don't know. This was a vampire movie that I really enjoyed watching it, and it was one that stuck with me for years. I still like to pull it out and watch it very frequently. Chris Sarandon plays a vampire who it doesn't seem like anybody but Charlie Brewster is the one that knows he's a vampire because he's actually seen him sucking women's blood and stuff like that. And so he's pretty well convinced that his neighbor, played by Chris Sarandon, is a vampire. X-Ray, I did not talk about Slaughter High only because I recently did an April Fool's Day horror where I talked about Slaughter High, and I wanted to wait a while before I talked about that again, so I did not. You say Fright Night's pretty baller. I agree with you. So Charlie is convinced that his neighbor is a vampire. we're convinced that his neighbor is a vampire, but nobody else is really believes Charlie. They think he's, just jerking their chain or whatever. Um, and Roddy McDowall plays Peter Vincent, a horror host, so to speak, who does a Fright Night show where he shows vampire movies, and he's the great vampire killer, as he says on his show. Um, so Charlie's girlfriend and his best friend, that they call Evil, affectionately call Evil, uh, get worried about Charlie, and so they go to Peter Vincent, who's just lost his job doing the Fright Night show, and want him to do his thing where he does the Peter Vincent thing and, declares that the neighbor is not a vampire. Well, unfortunately, Roddy McDowall, he finally agrees to help, but then he discovers when they go to Charlie's neighbor's house that he cannot see the guy's reflection. And so things get worse and worse. Chris Sarandon's character overtakes Amanda Bierce's character, and partially turns her into a vampire. A very sadistic, gruesome looking vampire, in my opinion. I thought that too, X-Ray, that William Ragsdale looks like a discount Zach Galligan. In fact, I get them confused sometimes. So, yeah, they do look quite a bit alike. There's one of my other dogs that's in here. You guys can't see him, but Sammy, one of my basset hounds, is in here. What you doing, Sammy? Do you need to go outside, buddy? He's coming over here by me, probably for me to pet him. He's a good boy. But anyway, so I think this is a very unique vampire film. It's not your standard run-of-the-mill vampire film, in my opinion. Not going to go on and on about the plot, mainly because I'm over 3 hours into this, and I really don't want to keep you guys very much longer. And this is the Eureka release. And the main reason I got this release is because of the You're So Cool Brewster, a 146-minute version of the 2016 documentary, The Making of Fright Night, that was created exclusively for this release. And you've also got a ton of other special features on this that I'll go over real quickly. X-Ray, you want to know, does Neon Maniacs count as high school horror? Possibly, X-Ray. I would probably have to go back and watch that, because I'm not even sure that I've watched all of Neon Maniacs. I'm going to have to check with Steve on that. See if he's got that. For some reason, I'm thinking he's got that movie. So the special edition, or special features on this, you get a 4K digital restoration, original stereo, PCM soundtrack, and 5.1 DTS HD master audio. Let's see. Of course, as I said before, the You're So Cool Brewster documentary. Blu-ray only exclusive extras. 3 new video pieces. What is Fright Night? Tom Holland, Writing Horror, and Roddy McDowall, From Apes to Bats. Fear Fest 2 2008 reunion panel featuring Tom Holland, Chris Sarandon, William Ragsdale, Stephen Jeffries, Amanda Bierce, Johnson Stark, and moderated by Rob Galuzzo. Shock Till You Drop presents Choice Cuts with Tom Holland and Ryan Turek, a 3-part video interview on the film. The full electronic press kit, featuring rare on-set interviews and behind-the-scenes footage, stills and memorabilia from Tom Holland's personal collection, and theatrical trailers. Now, keep in mind, in case you're thinking of purchasing this, um, it's a dual format edition, contains one Blu-ray that's Region B, and one DVD that's Region 2. So please make sure before you buy this version that you have the capability of being able to watch it. So anyway, there's Fright Night. Another one I highly recommend. Otherwise it wouldn't be on the list, would it? Jay, you say, what have they done to Solange count? I guess technically it could. I don't see why not. So the last one, X-Ray, you say Amanda Bierce and Stephen Jeffries look oddly alike too. Should have made the characters related. Yeah, they could have made them brother and sister on there. That would have been pretty cool. I hadn't thought about that actually, X-Ray, till you brought that up. But the last one, I promise guys, it's the last one for tonight. The last one I'm going to talk about tonight is also a vampire movie. Another one of these that I feel a lot of nostalgia for, and that's The Lost Boys. That includes the two Coreys in a very good film. But this is directed by Joel Schumacher, and Richard Donner was the executive producer. So Sam and Michael are brothers. Sam is played by Corey Haim, and they're moving with their mother, played by Diane Wiest. And Jason Patrick plays Michael, the older brother. And they're moving in with their grandpa because their mother and father have gotten divorced, and basically she has nowhere to go, so she kind of uproots the boys, and they move to Santa Clara or Clarita or something like that. I think it's Santa Clara. Santa Carla, that's it. So they moved to Santa Carla, and they, start mixing in with a whole new set of people. And Michael gets, he catches eyes with this girl played by Jamie Gertz. He catches her in passing. You see her there by Kiefer Sutherland. And he just falls head over heels in love with her. And so he'll do just about anything to get close to this girl. So that unfortunately means joining the vampire clan. So he ends up drinking David's blood, that's Kiefer Sutherland's character, and getting turned into a half vampire. So they spend the majority of this movie trying to figure out who the head vampire is, because if they kill the head vampire, then all the half vampires turn back into normal people. And that includes Star, Jamie Gertz's character, and the little boy who seems like a little feral boy. He's a half vampire as well. So I don't know. It's never really said whether Star and the little boy are I don't think it says whether they're related or where the little boy came from. But Star is really protective of him. And then you have the Frog Brothers, one who is played by Corey Feldman. And so they end up helping Sam discover how to defeat the vampires. This is a super fun movie. Has all the good horrific elements of a vampire film, but it seems so much more fun than a lot of the vampire films that are out there, and really filled with a lot of, in my opinion, young and up and coming actors and actresses. And I can't think of one bad thing about this film. X-Ray, you said Lost Boys is baller. Glad they didn't decide to make shitty sequels and spin-offs until the 2000s. Yeah, I am too. Dirk, you say, been a while since I've watched Lost Boys, probably 5 years. That's too long, huh? Love that damn movie. So many titles, too little time. Exactly. Actually, I haven't watched this again in a while. And I'm thinking seriously, just sitting there talking about it's getting me wanting to watch it again. I mean, it has some great lines in it. I mean, and funny lines too. For instance, when Sam discovers that Michael's a vampire, he says, my own goddamn brother, a shit-sucking vampire. And he's like, wait till Mom gets home. You know, it's just so... I mean, I catch myself laughing out loud when I hear that stuff. And then the grandpa at the end, it's like, you think the grandpa is oblivious to the fact that Santa Carla is overrun with vampires? But one of the final lines that he says is, one thing about Santa Carla I never could stomach is all the damn vampires. And then there's other scenes with the grandpa that are great where he tells them they can't eat his double stuffed Oreos and root beer, I think. And he has a TV guide but no TVs. Like, if you've got a TV guide, then you don't need the TV. And the whole discussion Sam has with Michael where he says, you know what that means? If there's no TV, there's no MTV. The saxophone player, the very old up saxophone player. I mean, gosh, there's so much great stuff in this movie. Darky said the camera work is great. I would agree with that too. And you love the idea of the vampires flying. I do too. I mean, there's so many things that make this, like I said, not just your standard run-of-the-mill vampire movie. I remember my mom liking this one as well when it came out. Let's look at special features here before we tie this live stream up. You get commentary by director Joel Schumacher, additional scenes, The Lost Boys, a retrospective documentary, the return of Sam and the Frog Brothers, the two Coreys, and Jameson Newlander, multi-angle video commentary, which is really good, and slightly sad now that Corey Haim is no longer with us. Vamping out the undead creations of Greg Canham, Inside the Vampire's Cave, 4 featurettes, the Vampire's Photo Gallery, Lou Graham, Lost in the Shadows music video, which I was talking about the old up saxophone player. You guys that like that will really enjoy this music video. A World of Vampires interactive map and a theatrical trailer. So, that is officially our last one for the night, guys. The Lost Boys. Heck of a way to end our high school horrors, right? I want to thank all of you guys for staying with me for... Most of you guys were in here for the entire 3 hours, 12 minutes, 49 seconds. And once again, I will be doing a live stream with the Dead Pit Boys tomorrow at 9. Not 9 in the morning, 9 at night. Where we will be discussing Final Girls. So I'm looking forward to that. And... check out my horror candles on Etsy if you want to. And I'm almost ready to hit the hay, guys. So, thank you again, and I'll be back with you next time with probably some college horror movies. So you can look forward to that. And I will be seeing you guys soon. So long for now.